Protesters remain on the streets of the Ukraine capital this morning in defiance of a new law restricting demonstrations. More than 70 police officers were injured in violent fighting that erupted in Kiev on Sunday. Protests began last November when Ukraine's president scuttled a planned trade pact with the European Union.
Organisers say about 100,000 people took to the streets on Sunday. Violence erupted after some protesters started moving towards government buildings. Demonstrators threw stones and firebombs. They also set police vehicles on fire. Police responded with smoke bombs and tear gas. Interior Ministry officials say more than 70 police officers were injured. Sunday's clash is the largest since anti-government demonstrations began nearly 2 months ago.
The demonstrators kidnapped a policeman. Opposition leader and former professional boxer Vitaly Klitschko tried to calm the people with no success. Tensions heightened this week when a court declared demonstrations in the center of Kiev illegal. And the president signed into law sweeping measures that limit free speech and assembly. Earlier Sunday, tens of thousands gathered on Independence Square to defy the new regulations.
Boxing champion turned opposition politician Vitaly Klitschko attended the protest but urged demonstrators to stop using violence. The tough new laws will virtually outlaw all forms of anti-government protests. Sunday's rally follows nearly 2 months of anti-government demonstrations in Ukraine, sparked by President Viktor Yanukovych's refusal to sign a landmark Ukraine-EU trade deal in November.
You're fighting with your nation. Stop the escalation and don't force people using police and police forces. Stop the civil war against the citizens of Ukraine who have been calling for 2 months for you to listen to them. Take the police forces out of the streets. The only way is to change the authority. His top allies stood by his side at a large peaceful rally earlier in the day where around 100,000 people took to the streets in and around Kiev's Independence Square. But here, sticks, stones, flares, even chunks of pavement were used by the protesters against the police.
The latest unrest began in November when President Yanukovych abandoned a political and economic deal with the European Union to instead focus on closer ties with Russia. This caused outrage for supporters of the EU who took to the streets and have been there pretty much ever since. In the last few days, the president signed into law a new bill designed to curb anti-government street protests. And that appears to have prompted the latest demonstrations, which have become increasingly violent.
We can't say it's a peaceful protest anymore. Trying to get through police barriers, protesters have used sticks and tear gas, and they've thrown stones on the police side. The police are holding back because we understand they want to provoke us into violence.
And the truth is, this is a deeply divided country. These protesters want Ukraine to look west, to Europe, but many others look east, to Russia. President Yanukovych says he wants to talk, but can talks possibly lead to peace?